Now in the hands of our capable city clerk, Ms. Lisa Carroll.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, September the 30th. We have appeals. Request for a waiver of the noise ordinance on October the 4th from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. on Old Canal Street. October the 18th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Adams Street. October the 4th, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Virginia Street. November 15th, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Virginia Street. January 31st, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Virginia Street. October the 12th, 3 p.m. until 9 p.m. on Westminster Way.
Any issues, Councilman Penn, Carroll, Days?
Public hearings.
No issues.
Oh, no issues. Okay.
Carroll?
Public hearings.
Okay.
Today is a public hearing to consider rezoning property located at 813 Lakeside Drive from B3 and I-1 to B3. Public hearing to fix costs for demolition of structures at 2002 Good Street and 1416 Old Shell Road.
That was not in my district.
Good Street is District 1.
Yeah.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Carrie Lewis, Pride recognized Miss Juneteenth, America Scholarship Queens. Catherine Odom, concerns about overages on city projects and glitches in recent elections.
Mr.
Sabrina
President,
Mass, change.
Mr. Woods?
this concerns about overages on city projects. I kind of can tell where this is starting to kind of come up based on some social media stuff. Just for clarification, can we get just a real quick update where we are on the Civic Center as far as budget? I mean, we are not over budget whatsoever.
No, Councilman, we are not over budget. We are on budget right now.
On
time.
budget, on time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I think we need to hear.
Hey, Josh, I haven't seen those. What, is there anything in particular, or is it just a general comment?
I think it's just a rehash of some stuff that's occurred over the last 6 months. I think there's a podcast out now. I just think it's a myriad of stuff just bubbling back up. But I do know that the primary thing of discussion, the primary topic of discussion was the Civic Center being over budget from the get-go, which is not the case. I mean, we've taken care of that as a council as far as making sure, everything that we've approved, everything we passed, I think there's some statements being made and people are taking it for gospel.
And I think maybe there is some confusion when they see other contracts being let along with what we're already doing, and they just add those up and decide that we're over, maybe. Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Sam, can you, I know you said we're on time. Can you just let the public know exactly where we at right now, with the Mobile Arena?
Yeah, at the present moment, we're erecting the structural steel. We're moving in a clockwise manner. We've got the building divided into quadrants, but we've got probably about 30% of the structural steel erected already. And we're getting ready to start pour some of the elevated slab concrete. So here in the next few weeks, you're going to start seeing floors at the different levels in there.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Sam, when you say on time, we're talking about on time of delivery of what date approximately or certain?
January of 27.
All right.
January
Fantastic. Thank you, Sam.
27th.
Look forward to it.
Okay.
I think Councilman Reynolds just worried about Mardi Gras. Madam Clerk?
Public hearing to fix, Sabrina Mass. Change of governance and welcome new council members and mayor. Resolutions held over 21-12-12, authorized contract with Kimley Horn and Associates for design of signalized intersection improvements citywide. 21-12-13, it's authorizing contract with Kimley Horn for design of signalized intersection improvements on Old Shell Road. 08-12-14, award item-based bid for medical oxygen for Mobile Fire and Rescue. 08/12/16, approved purchase order to Environmental Systems Research Institute for annual renewal of software and support services for Geographic Information System. 08/12/17, approved purchase order. 08/12/17, 12/18, 12/19 are approving purchase orders to Hardy Chevrolet for Chevrolet Tahoe SUVs. 08/12/21, approved purchase order to Truck Equipment Sales for 2 Ford pickup trucks. 08/12/22, approved purchase order to Truck Equipment Sales for Ford pickup truck with dump body. 08/12/23, approved purchase order to Sansom Equipment for dump trailer for public services. 09/12/24, transfer funds from general fund to capital improvements fund. 21/12/26, authorized contract with Anderson Delaney for racket stringer services. 21/12/27, authorized contract with McCarran Services for parking shuttle services for the cruise terminal. 01/12/31, authorized memorandum of understanding with Port City Transit for services to operate the city's transit system.
Any questions, comments, anyone?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are up to speed on everything and all the agreements are in place. No problems any longer with pension. Everything good? And the drivers are back driving?
Yes, ma'am. Specific to the drivers, we did speak with Via Transportation last week when we had the conversation. I know Councilman Woods and I followed up on that. There were only 2 drivers that were in discussion there. And I believe that was some confusion or conversations between the union and Transdev management as they were going out. We didn't experience anything that were substantive that would cause any disruptions. Specific to the pension, you do have on your agenda today, item 34047. I'm sorry, that's business license. My apologies. There's an item on the agenda for the adoption of the pension program that we know we're asking that the council suspend the rules and approve that as we discussed last week. I can go over the details of that with you, but obviously pension is important to the transit operators and to the employees. They're going to be operational tomorrow, October 1, and we look forward to making sure that that is the final piece of the component to bring all those employees on board. There was also a question about whether or not VIA was going to authorize any sort of agreement or continuation of agreement with the union. The job offer letters that the employees get specifically state that all obligations specific to the union, unionized workers, and the labor agreement will be adopted by, be adopted by VIA upon the employment of those employees.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds?
this pension arrangement we have here, I mean, change in employer, I mean, the pension benefit would stop typically, and then a new retirement offering would be made, correct? In a typical scenario.
Typically, yes, sir.
Okay, and we're saying we're not going to do that. We're going to continue to be obligated to pay the pension amount throughout the course of this employee's career. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, sir.
I don't
Yes, sir.
understand why we're doing that.
So I'll,
You missed last week,
So-
so.
No, I watched last week's
so
meeting.
we can explain. So in 2002, when we transitioned from the employees who were city employees for transit and when we transitioned over to private, those employees have been members of the RSA, Retirement Systems of Alabama. During that transition, the decision was made that there would be a defined benefit retirement plan that would be privately managed but funded in part by the city of Mobile. That agreement has been in place since 2002 and existed throughout those employees' tenure. As we get to VIA, VIA operates on a 401k. However, the operation of a 401k presents some complications as it relates to those ongoing employees. They are participants in that pension plan. We also have retirees here on the pension plan. With the agreement that was signed in 2002 that allow for really perpetual funding by the city into a defined benefit plan, the city has no other obligation or opportunity except to continue participation in that plan. As we go forward, what we'll do is VIA Transportation, their match that would have gone to the 401k will come to the city. the employees' deductions will come to the city, and the city will then remit those funds and a matching amount of funds to the independently managed defined benefit plan. We will not be responsible for the management of the plan, any fiduciary responsibility for the plan, simply putting forth the match as we currently do today. And yes, sir, it would be in perpetuity.
So what about new employees that are brought on that were not originally part of the 2002 agreement?
They would still be a part of the pension plan.
So why are we doing that? I guess I don't understand that. Why? I mean, if we're obligated to, I mean, we are obligated to those pensioners that we signed up to support and they agreed to work for the city of Mobile and transit services. I mean, we have an obligation to them, but any new employee that wasn't a part of that agreement, they should be able to participate, say, in a 401k program so that you eventually get to a point where the city is not obligated.
Yes, sir, we agree. The hurdle with that is the agreement that was signed in 2002 that creates the pension plan that we have today is created in perpetuity. We don't have the ability for those employees to not participate in that pension plan. The pension plan itself is the City of Mobile Transit Workers Pension Plan.
Period, end of it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said period, end of it.
That's
Who
correct.
established
Yeah.
that pension plan?
The city.
That, again, the transition was done in 2002. The documents were signed by Mayor Mike Dow, and that would have been a part of the standard and customary transition. Obviously, no one envisioned at the time that we would be 23 years later having this conversation today, but 23 years ago, that agreement was in fact exercised, and that's a part of the city's responsibility.
Yeah, but I'd say nobody else envisioned that we'd have this great technology and this new company who is, great at doing all of this. Nobody envisioned that either. I just think that if we're going to make a change to this plan going forward, now's the chance to do it rather than continuing to push down the road of, this defined benefits plan that we're on the hook for forever.
Right?
And if the city of Mobile created that plan all those years ago, 23 years ago, then the city can undo or modify it today as well. It's not like it's a mandate from the state.
Yeah, so with the language of the pension itself, when it was originally installed, the city did provide those funds. As it's morphed over time, that the management of that plan and the distributions from the city have remained unchanged. So as we go through this process, the union labor agreement clearly specifies that there would be agreements for the pension plan. Via Transit would not be responsible for that. There would still be a responsibility of the city to contribute some of those matching funds. The contract itself, through the agreement with the pension and through VIA and through TransDev, identified those costs as operational costs. And those costs are required to be compensated by the city in all of those agreements. We agree that it's not preferable, that in a practical sense, there will be a way to transfer out or transition away from the defined benefit to the defined contribution. We just simply don't have the legal capacity to make that transfer. This is a legacy transfer. It's a legacy pension plan, again, funded through the city by the employees, but we don't have the legal provision to go back and unwind that. We are not a decision maker in the pension plan at all, other than we are bound to provide that funding as a part of operational costs.
So what you're saying is that the city council doesn't have the ability to pass an ordinance or a resolution that says all pensioners, we're going to take responsibility for as we should here forward throughout the course of their life. Okay? But the city is handing off the responsibility of public transportation to this new operator where they're going to take care of it here forward. And we're going to be obligated to paying $8 million a year for the terms that are laid out in the contract.
No, that's not exactly.
Let me
Go ahead.
So, Mr. President, Mr. Reynolds' question are not only timely, but a really good question, right? Asking this question now at this date is key. Everything Mr. Collins said is 100% accurate. But apt to the question, you all do have the power to be able to look at this and make a decision one way or another. It will be very complicated to do so. But the short question that you ask is, do you have the power to do it? Yes. Do we have a long-standing agreement that has been operational that is changing at this pivotal time? Also, yes. But the reason that we're asking you all to look at the amendment is to make sure the current employees are consistently made whole. The reason for that is the federal funding that comes along with those obligations that we've stepped into, intrinsically tied to it. So in order to have the ability for VIA or TransDev in the past to go after and seek those federal funds, we have to have this type of operation. But back to Mr. Reynolds' question is, what does it look like if the employees who exist now and the retirees stay in the pension plan and new people go into a 401k? That's a much more complicated answer. Not one we can answer for you today, but we can definitely take a look at it and get you an answer on that.
So what are the implications of us passing this by consent today and subscribing to this old way? I mean, undoing that, if, once they onboard all these new employees, just signs us up for a new group of pensioners. So it can be even more difficult to undo at that point.
So one caveat, it does not sign you up for a new group of pensioners. These people are already pensioners. Okay. That's the distinction. Everybody that's employed now,
If they hire somebody tomorrow
different question.
that was not part of TransDev or the city of Mobile previously, aren't they now going to be new pensioners to the plan?
That's a different question. The answer is yes. So the people who are going from TransDev to VIA now are current pensioners. But to your question, secondary question is yes. Somebody who's brand new, who has not been a part of current employment coming on, that's creating a new pensioner.
Okay, I'm going to withhold consent today. There may be votes to pass this. I'm not trying to just be disruptive to be disruptive, but I just think that this is not in the best interest of public transportation going forward.
It's not going to buy us anything. I mean, we have 6 votes to pass it today. Let's pass it today.
We got 6 votes. Let's go ahead and bring it up today. You can vote against it.
In my mind, all I can remember is the police, fire, and pension fund. We have sort of the same quagmire that he's describing now with older firemen and policemen under the retirement plan of the old pension with the new ones under RSA. I mean, is that right, Kurt? It's not that it's still under, but we don't. Yeah, the insurance is different, and we don't want to create that type of atmosphere. I wouldn't want to see that created again. So I think that we need to just go ahead and push this along today. I mean, I think we have the votes to do it. I think we've been through it and we've heard all the details. I think we have the best possible solution. So let's move forward.
Yes,
Mr. President.
we discussed it last week when we had the same questions about wouldn't new employees go into the 401k? And so we went round and round with the same questions. Another issue that Scott had brought up would be 2 plans going on at the same time, which is difficult to manage. So that was another issue. But even if after some years we change management companies again, the same pension plan would be the same. It would roll over into the new company and we would be bound by the same laws and policies that we instituted years ago when Mayor Dow signed the pension plan agreement. So that wouldn't change.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that is correct. Also, the pension plan is self-managed, the transit workers pension. So dissimilarly from the police and fire pension fund, which the city has some obligation to, the city of Mobile in this instance is only funding an employee match. That's correct. There is no forward obligation of the city to make up any shortfall, unfunded liability, or other thing. All of those things are managed by the Transit Pension Trust.
Right.
Mr. Days to Mr. Penn. Mr. Penn.
No, I just want to say I agree with my colleagues, Councilman Carroll, Days, and Gregory. We shouldn't hold this over for a week. It's not going to hold anything. The votes is here. You can vote it down if you decide to, but when you look at the situation from a legal perspective, from moving forward from the standpoint of having 2 different plans, that's going to create an issue. And at the same time, you want workers that are happy. You want workers that has a desire to come to work and do their job. This is the best way to move forward. October the 1st is when October 1st, what's the day is?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Like, let's move forward. Thank you, Mr.
In an
President.
effort to not just be disruptive for the sake of being disruptive, I will vote to waive the rules, but I'd like to reserve the right to vote no.
That's fine.
Mr. President.
Mr. Woods.
I fully agree with you. I'm with you. I'm there. But in this situation, this is what they agree. This is historically what's happened. This is when they signed the job offer. This is what they got. is a pension plan's dated? I mean, is it better than a 401k? I mean, I have my own personal opinion on that, but I think in this instance, I agree with exactly what you're saying. But I think in this instance, this is what they've agreed to provide and part of their employment. And you do need, if you were to transition the new employees over to a 401k style with a match, I think you'd end up with a shortfall at some point, maybe not 5 years, maybe not 10 years, but at some point, I think because they're no longer contributing to the pension, the payout, I think you'd eventually find a shortfall somewhere. So, is this the best structure? That's debatable, but I think we have to continue the way it is. So.
Mr. Days?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what Councilman Woods said. Defined benefit pension plans are on the way out, have been on the way out for some time. And from the employer's perspective, they're not the best way to provide a retirement benefit for employees. However, we have the votes to pass this. We don't have the votes to pass something other than this. And so the best thing for us to do right now is move ahead and pass this.
And just one more thing, there's nothing that says that years down the road, we might not work with them to change it to when new employees come in, we would change it to a 401k. Just not right now, not today, not with the deadline that we're under.
I do have a question about, just make sure I understand, this $8 million commitment that we're making by way of the VIA contract. Are we saying that a portion of that $8 million is going to cover our pension obligation to these pensioners?
So let me walk us through where that is. This will result to the city in a net increase of a little over the $8 million, assuming we spend all of those dollars. And we described this a bit last week, and I'll kind of walk us through that again. Currently, the employees contribute 5% of their pay gross to the pension plan. The city, if this was an RSA pension plan, we currently match about 13% in employee pay to RSA, 16.5% in employee pay to the police and fire pension fund. In this instance, VIA Transportation contributes up to 2% of 100% of the employee's pay to a 401k system if they were on a 401k. So in this instance, that 2% will come to the city, the employee's 5% will come to the city. The city will then write a check to the pension for all of that. The net cost, we think, to the city today, obviously there's some working to go through, we think that's going to be roughly $300,000. The pension last year on the police and fire pension trust, the report, we have the audit from June 30 of 24. The net distributions of the pension were roughly $1.6 million against holdings of just over $20 million. So the pension is relatively whole. We don't see anything coming back from that. The employees contributed $267,000 of that. The employer contributed $600,000 of that, less the 2% that VIA would contribute. So we believe as of today that our contribution is going to be about $300,000. Again, we all agree that this isn't preferred. If there were ways that we could transition, it just feels that the transition of this would be more problematic and ultimately more cost. We're just really in a higher cost to the city if the pension were to not be fully funded operationally and we got into the same process again. So we're kind of stuck in what's kind of the best bad decision we can make, as if there's a bad decision. And this seems to be the best decision on behalf of the pensioners, the transit system, and the city who are ultimately paying the cost. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Ordinance is being introduced, 34047, ordinance to levy a local excise tax and require business licenses for the sale of consumable vapor products in the corporate limits and police jurisdiction of the city of Mobile.
I think we've been asked to take this up today
Yeah.
also.
To waive
Yeah.
the rules.
Mr. President.
Ms. Perrin.
Yeah, can you kind of give a talk about exactly what this ordinance presents?
Yes, sir. So the Alabama legislature earlier this year adopted legislation that would increase the tax on vaping products at an amount of 10 cents per milliliter sold. That law states that 10 cents will go into effect on October 1 of 2026. The law also provides that municipalities have the ability to go in and adopt that same or higher taxation on vaping products. And it would also be in effect October 1, 2026. That legislation requires that if municipalities enact their own ordinance to do this, then that must be done on or before October 1 of 2025. We don't like the language of that. Obviously, this has been pushed out fairly quickly, but it is a language that was adopted in the legislation, of which I have a copy here. The difficulty for the cities in this, and I believe as of last week, there were maybe 5 cities that had adopted this local legislation or local act via ordinance. Under the Alabama Act, if the state of Alabama collects these funds on behalf of the cities, they will redistribute those funds similar to the manner in which they redistribute SSUT, the specified seller's use tax. Obviously, cities across the state believe that they receive lower amounts of money to them based on SSUT than what is collected in the municipality. So it's in the best interest of the city if we adopt this ordinance on ourselves, we manage the ordinance ourselves, enforce the ordinance by ourselves, then we get to keep 100% of the 10 cents per milliliter rather than it going to the state and the state redistributing those funds at a lower rate. This is not something that the city has proposed. This is not something that we've brought to the city council as a preference to adopt on its own. It's just an opportunity for the city to manage its own revenue source and make sure that we see the greatest benefit of this if there's going to be a financial benefit.
So if we don't approve this today, what happens?
If we don't approve this today under the act, then no municipality in the state, including the city of Mobile, would be able to go and increase any taxes on vaping products. This legislation is written to where we can adopt an increase of any amount that we want. We've chosen to present to you a mirrored increase from the state, the simple 10 cents per milliliter. We're not doing anything greater than that, although municipalities have the authority to do that. We're just simply proposing that we mirror the state's increases that will go into effect October 1, manage it ourselves, and receive 100% of those funds rather than them being redistributed.
Thank you.
Mr. President. Ms. Reynolds. I'm very disappointed that this has landed on our desk, that, the week before, and then we're now being asked to take it by consent. I mean, it seems like we should have known about this a long time ago. I don't know when the Department of Revenue came back with their ruling or the way that they saw it, but I mean, we should have known about this for some time, so that we could at least get it out to our constituents and everybody can have a more clear understanding of what it is. But I think our hands are tied here. It sounds like that this is a great example of how the debacle with simplified seller's use tax happened, that we took our eye off the ball and our money is redistributed amongst other cities and counties throughout the state rather than coming back the lion's share to the people who are paying the tax in the city. So I'm glad that this was caught. I don't know who caught it, but I'm glad it was caught so that we can do this, but very disappointed that we're finding out about it on the 9th hour. I mean, it just should not have happened this way.
Yes, sir. I completely understand that. And we feel the same way internally. The issue of this has been every city across the state has grappled with this. As I stated earlier, I think 5 cities across the state as of last week had adopted this. I think there were several questions that came into play. We also have an opportunity with this, which is rare, that this won't go into effect until October 1 of 26. There is some activity now. I know there are some participants that are going to go back to petition the legislature about changes to this as it relates to the additional fee for the licensing and the rates. This will be one of those that there may be some changes that go through the legislature in the spring session that amend the action that was taken last year. This is simply an opportunity for the city to go back and make sure that we, to the extent that we can, get control of something that is going to go into effect regardless. We don't like the date. We just know that if this is going to happen, it seems to be in the city's best interest to make it happen under anything that we can control. Yes, sir.
Question too, just for clarification, Scott, the 10 cents is going into effect one way or the other, but the state would manage the money and then distribute it to us in some fashion, correct?
That is correct. This change in the 10 cents is going to take effect on October 1, 26, regardless of any action that the city council take today. So this is just an opportunity for the city council to do this so that we would realize 100% of that 10 cents per milliliter rather than it being redistributed likely at a lower rate.
Right. So us doing this then means that we will get the full amount, the 10 cents.
That is correct.
Okay, oh, yeah.
I'll just read this for clarity, if you don't mind, Mr. President. It says, any county or municipality that does not levy a local tax on consumable vapor products will receive a portion of the state vapor products tax based upon the ratio of the population of county or municipality to the total population of all counties or municipalities. So it's not based on a dollar amount, it's just a ratio of population, which, we'd lose a lot.
That's right. The primary difference between this and SSUT is SSUT distributes 75% of half to the municipalities. This would redistribute 25%. This language on the state states that for all of these revenues, 50% would go to the state, 25% to the counties, 25% to the cities, distributed on a prorated share, municipal population, county population. So in this instance, we would see less than we get. It mirrors SSUT, but it is a lower rate that we would have even gotten at SSUT.
It's kind of odd that the state even gives us this opportunity to do this.
They do the same with cigarette tax, and the cities adopted the cigarette tax the same. So occasionally they do give us these opportunities.
Yeah.
I think for us, it makes sense to do if we were a smaller municipality, depending on what your population is, it could see that you benefit you to go with the state. So there's going to be a case by case. Now, obviously, every city that adopts this reduces the amount of funding that 25% would be. But it certainly benefits us from a financial perspective to adopt this ordinance. I understand it's the 11th hour, but again, no one across the state is satisfied with the timeline.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance is being introduced. 64048 is the rezoning on Lakeside Drive. Consent resolutions being introduced. 311232 authorize the mayor to apply, accept, and receive a grant from the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, $60,000, no local match. 311233 authorize the mayor to apply, accept, and receive a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance in support of the fiscal year 2025 students, teachers, and officers preventing school violence program up to $1 million, no local match. 371234, 1235, 1236, 1237, and 1238 are recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license to Rear Pocket on Sage Avenue. Recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special events retail liquor license to Mobile County Wildlife and Conservation Association Oyster Bar on Monroe Street. Recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer, table wine off premises only license to Hop In Food Mart, Dauphin Island Parkway. For issuance of a restaurant retail liquor license to Bamboo Japanese Steakhouse Restaurant on Cody Road South. For issuance of a restaurant retail liquor license to Thai Chili on Museum Drive. 40, 1239, and 1240 are fixing the cost of demolition of structures. 461241 honorarily rename Holt Road to honorary Albert Petway, Second Way. Yeah, okay. 581242 and 1243 are declaring weeds noxious and assessing cost for removal of weeds. Group 1669 and Group 93. 601244 approval award of special bonus to Administrative Services Employee of the Month. 271267 certify the results of the municipal runoff election. Resolutions being introduced. 211245 authorize contract with Bill Smith Electric for emergency generator at Mobile Police Department 3rd Precinct, $53,680. 011246 authorized franchise agreement with Fiber Utility Network doing business as Alabama Fiber Network. 011247 authorized amendment to Port City Transit Pension Plan Agreement. 081248 approved purchase order to Bobcat of Mobile for a compact loader with accessories for urban forestry, $97,133.80. 081249 approved purchase order to Cheryl T. Holyfield for Federal Transit Administration Grant Reporting Services, $22,000. 081250 approved purchase order to Dana Safety Supply for motorcycle technology mounts, $27,781.20. 081251 approved purchase order to Dozers for compaction roller, $116,402. 08-1252, approve purchase order to Long Lewis Ford for Ford Bronco, $39,278. 08-1253, approve purchase order to Primary Arms LLC for body armor, $33,126.80. 08-1254, approve purchase order to Thompson Tractor for emergency generator for the cruise terminal, $188,923. 08-1255, approve purchase order to Tractor and Equipment Company for dozer for Public Services Department, $189,600. 09-1256, authorized revision to ADECA Community Development Block Grant, Coronavirus Response Budget Allocation.
Mr. President,
Ms. Penn,
can I get some information about this revision to DECA Community Development Grant? What is being transitioned? How much money?
Hey, Mark.
Good morning.
So yeah, let me get the numbers up for you. It's going to settle the budget with the remaining administrative money, and then the remnants of all the other line items going to fire protection equipment. So the total is 543,000, a little bit over that.
How much?
A little over 543,000.
543,000.
Right. This is a recommendation from ADECA to get the grant closed out. So the initial funding was set up to acquire real estate for the food banks. That was prior to the market taking off and the ADECA restriction of you can't rehab buildings. So it really, it's not functional in the current format where you'd go buy a building that's move-in ready for the food banks. We did get the credit union out in Africatown. That's Africatown Hall now, but the remaining money is not usable in the format it's set up in.
So we only can use this money to purchase real estate for food
In
banks?
the current approval, it's set up for purchasing real estate. What we're proposing is to put it in fire protection to get the Stryker Lucas touchless CPR machines for the fire department.
So we're gonna move money that was dealing with for food banks to help the community.
It was to acquire a building for them to be in. They've been working on the rec centers. That's actually been functioning very well.
Gotcha. But I'm just saying the funds were there was kind of focused on food, getting a building to help with managing, bringing food into the community.
Right.
And then we moving it to, which I appreciate what, of course, everything the fire department does. But it seemed like the block grant was focused more on that community. Is anything that we can move that money to help more of the community standpoint?
DECA has recommended this strongly because they're trying to get these grants closed out. There's a 6-year overall timeline to spend the money. Like I said, it was set up in 21, I believe. And as we get further away from COVID, it has been declared not a major issue. It's hard to tie back.
Yeah, I think I might want to.
It's harder to tie back to the COVID eligible categories.
And I understand they recommend, but does the recommendation mean that that's the only thing that we can utilize it for? Because I understand that from their standpoint, they think it's over. But from in my community, and you can go. Matter of fact, we just had a food drive this past Saturday, and boxes of food. We didn't have enough. People was lined around the corner.
So that's a different category we do fund.
And I know, and yeah, I
The
understand.
actual providing of food, we fund that separately through our annual grant.
Okay.
We transitioned it from the COVID grant to the annual grant.
So my question is, what can we use? We only can use that for purchase in real estate, but we can move it to fire department. We can't move it to do anything else for the community.
Not really, because the timing is running. We have about 11, 12 months to spend it. And we've already gone through the procurement process in anticipation of this to buy that equipment. So to change it somewhere else, you'd have to negotiate a contract. It'd be a public service category probably. There's not enough time, but we can look at that for the annual allocation.
So this is my thing. When we say not really, when we say recommendations, I think this is something that from a conversation, like we need to ask people, like, what's the other options?
Well, we did a 30-day comment period and received no comments on it. We published
From
a
who?
newspaper, put on the website, and nobody commented.
I think what he's saying is you didn't ask the council.
yeah, as the council.
And that's, I mean.
It's like we didn't know anything about
We didn't know
this.
anything about it, you know, and I've been kind of quiet lately. I don't want to kind of go out of here in a storm, but this was this is one of those things where I catch in the hallway and I talk to you about, what happened to the council. How much time is left?
Hold on. Let me finish. But I appreciate you giving me an amen. I totally agree with what William's saying. Like that post to the public, we are directly dealing with the public. We're dealing with our constituents.
I understand that.
Yeah. Hold on.
Go ahead.
So I think it would have been better to continue to do that post. That's great. But sending to the council, so now we could have had a community meeting, or we already have our community meeting. We could have offered that suggestion.
What I'm saying is there's not really a whole lot of options. We're not driving this train. The DECA has strongly recommended this equipment. And the grant will expire sometime next year. There's not any place else to put it with the time allowed.
So then,
But
this
if
one
we had
saying,
options, I would come to you guys. There's not really any options.
But then you posted it. So that means that it was you was looking for suggestions.
That's a HUD requirement. We have to take comments. It doesn't mean we accept them or take the recommendations either.
So we were saying we just posted it and we didn't care what nobody was gonna say.
It's a technical requirement that the DECA.
And that sound horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, that sound like super horrible that we're gonna post something and we don't even care what people saying. Like,
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not saying you're doing that. And what I'm saying is, whatever that small segment is, I want to know what that small segment is. And whatever that time frame is, I would rather us figure out if we can't do it, then that's fine. But whatever that small segment is, let's see what that small segment is.
So I think it's probably good to lay this over. I mean, it's first read anyway, but you may want to lay it over. I think it's a good idea for you all to do the outreach. We didn't get any comments. And so it's not that we don't care what people say. It's not what we don't care what you all say. It's just the constraints and the time frame there. But there's no problem for you all to do the outreach and say, look, community, what do you think we should do here in the parameters? And then us go back to the table and look at it. But remember, you're dealing with a very, very narrow issue of constraints when you're talking about this money and what we can and can't do. And so the original idea of dealing with the food banks, I mean, that came from this department. That was a community and council-led initiative, us trying to do that together. There's nothing wrong with us being able to say, look, is there another option here? And then allowing people to look at the options and give you all input. There's no problem doing that.
Normally, ADECA has a binder of recommendations and outlines and where these monies and things can go with their programs. Do you still have that binder for this program?
It's not so much a binder, this one. It's CDBG eligible activities, except there's a COVID tieback. And the further we get away from that, the harder it is to tie it back. And they're going to say something's not eligible.
How much time do we have left to spend this money?
I have to look. I believe it's May of next year.
So 9 months. So 9 months. How much time would it take to look at a different venue, put a proposal out, and request if we had to do it?
Say it again. Sorry.
How much time would it take us to go through a different proposal if we wanted to put money somewhere else for a facility?
We'd have to do another 30-day comment period. That's the HUD requirements. The DECA's overlaid on this. We'd have to do, depending on what it is, some kind of procurement. So RFP or a bid process. If it's a bid, that may be a little difficult year end. So we'd be delayed on that unless the state has a bid contract out already.
So 60, 90 days?
Probably a little longer than that.
And is there a list of opportunities that we could possibly put in places we could possibly use the money?
That list that's not a functional list you can look at of here's the activities. The DECA's left it open-ended, but with the HUD requirements and DECA requirements to tie back to COVID, that is very narrow.
Could you
so the general CDBG eligible categories, but tying to COVID is the hard part.
Could you possibly make a list for this council to see if they were interested in placing money in different options to do, if they take a review right quick?
So rather than us do that, this is what we're thinking is possibly have the council members who are interested actually go back to the original purpose and see if there is a building, that you all want to use. I mean, that would be, I think, the first thing to say, hey, look, let's take public comment on what those options are. Same time, we would give you what the constraints are And so I'm saying both and. So first is have the council members actively say in the community, is there a building that we could use that falls in this area? I mean, go back to the original script, right? And then secondarily, let's give you a very short list of constrained things we could use the funds for and try to move quickly within that 30-day time period.
The reason why I was asking those questions in that way is that as I look around the city, it seems like the food banks and distribution centers are starting to slow down because the sources of funding are changing.
That's correct.
So some of them are going away. So the need for the facilities are becoming smaller and smaller. So I was hoping you would let me finish that line so there'd be a clear understanding for not just this council, but also for the public. The question is will the need be there for a facility in the future or in the near future or far future? And if we purchase a building, what would its end use be if we were to discontinue the program, or the funding for those programs would stop?
That part's dictated by DECA.
I understand that. So, but what I'm saying is that is it really needed is the question. And if it is needed, then how long would it be, the purpose be? And at what point would it run out and we just have a building that's sitting there, just mothballing? And if it's downtown somewhere and it's empty, then we got another problem.
And I will say, if it doesn't finish the eligible activity, it's a payback requirement.
That's correct. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, I kind of know those rules inside and out. I understand what you're saying, and I wish the council would have had the chance to see it too. But just, are we truly gonna need it based on the need that we had in 20?
Yeah, I think having the constraints, knowing exactly what we can and cannot use the money for will help.
Yeah.
Because maybe we don't need a facility for the food distribution program, but maybe something else could be used where there is a great need. I mean, I'm seeing Africa Town and all the needs that we have there, but I don't know what the constraints are leading back to the
That
COVID.
part of it is
Yeah.
that HUD has still not clearly
Yeah.
defined the constraints. They're saying COVID tieback.
Right.
That's, unless you get it directly in writing of examples.
Yeah,
from
so
HUD,
so
it's
we may
very
really
open.
be limited.
It'd be subject to payback at some point if
Right,
you're off on
right,
that.
Mr. President,
Mr. Runner.
we do know for a fact that this fire rescue equipment is something that we do need.
That's what I was
Yes,
about to ask.
they were actively looking for funding for that, and they're looking at trading in the difference to get a full set. This would finish that balance.
And if we don't pay for it out of this money, then the money's got to come from somewhere.
Right, and that's what the recommendation really is shifting it to fire. We can use regular CDBG funding to look for a building if you want to next
Yeah.
year. Or if the city wants to, if they had money they were setting aside for that, for the fire equipment, but it wasn't ready yet, that could shift over to find a building. We could look at that kind of stuff.
Mr. President,
Good.
and to Councilman Carroll's point, so let's say we go out and we purchase an asset. What's the, number one, are we gonna have to stand up a new food program somewhere? And number two is, what's the length of time that we have to operate, just generally, that we'd have to operate the food program in order to not have to stroke a check back?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, just so everyone understands, regardless of what we do, there is a time frame. There's a process that we have to get it. I just don't want us to have to end up stroking a check 9 months from now back to the federal government.
Yeah.
Well, if we do nothing, then the grant just ends and that funding goes back. It's not
Yeah.
something we spend.
We don't
so
want to
it's
lose the money.
If we do spend it, there's a 5-year use requirement on public facilities. That's the HUD standard. ADECA might actually lay a little more on top of that. That's when we initially set this up in 2021, 5 years is only 25 or so. Having the food bank funded in the same fund made that, it was going to happen. The further we get away from that, the more this goes in the regular CBG grant, the harder that is to do.
And then, and just, you did state, and I'll close, you did state that, it has to be kind of, there's some other little ancillary things. It's got to be a new building. It's
Doesn't have
got
to be a
to,
new building, but it has to be up to code, so there's no rehab need. ADECA does not want to do the environmental review required for rehab.
And that's one of the other constraints with dealing with a building and what we've been looking for. But we're not opposed to looking for some other option.
And I can say the nonprofits themselves, so it's the District 1, 2, 3 food banks, which we initially set up in COVID. They look for buildings themselves. They've had 3-4 years to find one, hadn't found one. We've had 2 realtors looking at it and hadn't found one that's ready to go in their footprint. That's where we've come to this.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ware.
again, I agree with my colleagues. I don't have nothing. I support the fire department to the T. And if that resources is needed, then I support that. The point what I'm saying is the council need to know these things. We shouldn't receive the information and then we say, oh, no, we got 11 months. It's 9 months. We don't make a decision right now, then we got to go with this, or it's October the 1st. If we don't vote today, we lose. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it's the administration. Certain, like with that, y'all found out at the last minute. I understand that. But when that information was put to the public, I would have wished that we would have got that information as well. Just can we do a better job in sharing that information and let us know so we can share that with our constituents? We see them on a regular basis and we want to be able to be very knowledgeable of what's taking place. We don't have to vote on something and say, well, we just moved it and I don't know why. We just had 11 months. So just being able to share that information, I think would be great. And if I know all those things up front, then that will help. So just share the information and I'm requesting just share that information. And I think that will move the council forward. Thank you.
I think that's more than an appropriate ask. And I think it's, we have some time to move through this process. And so to the extent we want to let you all know these things well in advance, we'd also ask that if there are questions about it before we get to this state, let's go ahead and put those questions out there and ask them so we can, not only inform the public, but move the ball forward together. So.
Anyone else? All right. Madam Clerk.
09-1257, reallocate funds from capital project IT technical and infrastructure upgrades to capital.
So wait a minute, what did we end up deciding we're gonna do with 09?
Yeah, it's going to
First-
lay
this
over
first
anyway.
reading.
So they have a week or
Let it
2
lay
weeks
over 1
really
week.
to come up with something else.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
09-1257, reallocate funds from capital project IT technical and infrastructure upgrades to capital project IT fiber expansions, upgrades for fiber optic expansions and upgrades at city facilities, $60,000. 21-1258, authorized contract with All Red Architectural Group for Dolphin Island Parkway New Community Center, $515,472. 21-1259, authorized contract with George Glasser to provide professional services for the Office of Professional Responsibility, $80,000 per year. 21-1260, authorized contract with National Maritime Museum of the Gulf of Mexico to create a Jimmy Buffett tribute exhibit, $500,000. 21-1261, authorized contract with P.L. Russell for upgrades to the Mobile Riverfront redevelopment, Cooper Riverside Park and Great Lawn, $2,757,500.
And the question, all right, Mr. Penn and Vice President Gregory.
Now, I just want to, what's the time frame for this, brother?
So this is the third part of a project, right? So we're doing the copper cell and the bulkhead improvements. That should be complete in November. Once we get that complete, in fact, we're trying to work with the contractors to be working both at the same time if this gets approved. And so we'll be able to start this project to complete, all of the renovations to the park, which have been damaged during this process, and it'll be about 9 months to get that completed.
So in 9 months, the park will be open after, is it 9 months after November?
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right.
Is this?
Yeah. Jen, can you just, sorry, go back over, sorry, what we're doing out there, what the details are of this renovation and work? That's
So Cooper Riverside Park is a heavily used park, especially for events. All of the work that's taken place down there to recreate the bulkheads and address the copper cell issue have obviously damaged the park. So this is a hardscape and a landscaping project that's going on here. So it'll be completely renovated for safety, ADA accessibility, and the ability to have events back down there. An additional project that you're going to see coming forward is renovations of the bathroom. The bathroom was built pre-Katrina, although it still is a nice bathroom, but it doesn't have the proper ADA accessibility. And so you'll see that coming up. We're working on that design right now.
Reynolds.
This is Go Mesa funding?
Correct, with a little bit of TIF money covering an
TIF and Go
additional
Mesa.
part.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Green.
21-1262, Authorized contract with Thompson Engineering for access management and signal upgrades on Dolphin Street from Sage Avenue to West I-65 at Spring Hill Memorial Hospital, $1,132,641. 21-1263, authorized contract with Bagby and Russell Electric Company for security camera maintenance, $1 million per year. 25-1264, accept temporary construction easements for miscellaneous drainage repairs for Halls Mill Road at Spring Branch. 21-1266, authorized contract with McElhaney Construction for construction of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue Complete Streets Project, northwest of Butchers Lane to Beauregard Street, $11,257,346.43.
Mr. President,
Mr. Penn.
Can you tell the public where the funds this amount coming from?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your
Can
question?
you tell the public where the funds for this project? come from?
Absolutely. So this is $11.2 million contract. We have three funding sources. The first one is Restore Act funding. So that's Bucket 3 Federal Council. That's $2.1 million. We have an MPO allocation to this project, which comes through ALDOT, which is $6.6 million. And MAS is also contributing a little over $3 million to cover the rest. They've already done their work. So that's, utility work is not part of this contract. We, and our department, we've been moving all the utilities ahead of the project so we don't have any delays during construction.
How long is project expected to last?
This is a 2-year project. It is block to block, just like St. Louis Street. We'll be starting all the way down where the connection to the new Greenway Trail is going to be. And then it's going to move that way back towards Broad Street. So it will not impact Mardi Gras this year. That's a question that's going to come up.
Right. This has been a long awaited project. I mean, we're talking project going back, what, 6-7 years now?
Correct,
On this
yeah.
project. This is a project that's gonna totally revamp the campground in the bottom with access and beautification. It's going to be hand in hand with every project that's going on there, from the Cultural and Heritage District to the Housing Revitalization Project. This is another transformative project that's going to help revitalize not one neighborhood, but two on both sides of the avenue. So I've been asking about it now for about 3 years. We finally got it to the point that we can actually get a start on it. I'm happy to see it start. And hopefully we can get it started sometime in December maybe?
That's right. So the next step in this does have to go back to the federal council for the third approval of the executed contract. That's when we get our notice to commence construction, just like we just did on St. Louis Street. So I anticipate a notice to proceed could be out in 8 to 10 weeks, just because we know that takes about 6 weeks to get that completed. We'll be going through our communications with the community like we did with our community groups that we've been working with during this project to communicate about it starting.
We are not on no time frame because this is going to probably lay over 2 weeks, are we?
I'm aware, yep. So we're aware that the approval will be October 14th if you choose to vote yes.
Okay. All right. Vice President? Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Green.
Call for public hearings. 41-1265, call for public hearing to consider the modification of a previously approved PUD for a property located at 600, 700, and 800 West I-65 Service Road South, scheduled November the 4th. Announcements.
Anything from this council?
Mr. President, don't we have an Administrative Services Committee meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock?
And that's for the
Yes,
vacant buildings. And was that tabled last week or just held over?
just held over to the 14th. I have received quite a few phone calls about it, a bunch of concerns. There was one individual that really had quite a few. I think he's one of the owners of the Hoffman building. I told him last night or yesterday afternoon that I would grant him 3, 4, 5 minutes today to voice his opinions, but I also believe that in most of the things that he's going to voice, we've already addressed in a positive way. So I think it'll be beneficial to hear what he has to say and move on from that.
Mr. President,
Penn and Woods.
Scott, did you get that email that I sent regarding about the vacant buildings from a constituent? Yeah. Oh, you did. He did.
I don't know if he did or not. I think
He didn't hear you.
he can't hear you.
Okay. Did you receive that email from the constituent about the vacant buildings, all the questions, one of the owners?
I
did not.
Okay, you did, okay. You got it recorded, okay.
Ms.
Okay, y'all able to respond to those concerns?
So, Mr. President, so those comments are about the TIF. Like they really don't address the vacant building ordinance. This is a bunch of it's good suggestions actually, but it's
Okay.
about the TIF and confusing the two. I looked at them, and actually some of them have been addressed already. Some of them are safeguards. We can explain them in that meeting if you want us to,
Okay.
but those are primarily focused on the TIF and the facade program, and not necessarily. And some of them, like I said, some of them are good suggestions. Some of them are not tenable. So I'm
Okay.
glad to address those issues.
Mr. Woods, Mr. Carroll.
I was just going to say, we talked last week, Councilman Reynolds, you're limited to 5 questions.
I believe all the amendments that I had, we worked out, and they're prepared, so we can look at a fresh version tomorrow. They were very innocuous in nature.
You mean this afternoon?
I'm sorry to that, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Mr. President, this is asking the administration to do something. There was a commitment made by me for Hannon, McGill, and Conti streets in this last paving cycle to make sure that those streets were done. I was told last week that those streets would not be done because after additional financing was added to that bucket to get those streets done, the budget has now come back an additional $700,000 higher than what was projected after we added additional funds to it. So in essence, I've been made to look like a liar because I've committed so hard to these people for the last 2.5 years that we would get those three streets done. I would like to find a way to honor that commitment from both me and this administration to make sure that those streets are done. I'm aware that there is a serious drainage problem, and it has always been at the corner of McGill and Hannon. Matter of fact, it's flooded there since I was a kid in '75 when that was a park there, when we used to play baseball there, up until it was changed in '76 when the McGill sisters actually donated that property to Little Sisters of the Poor, and it still floods and has been flooding ever since. So I'm talking about from 1975 to today. So I would like to see that project completed, finished, and done, whether it's done in the next year's cycle, because most of that money is already there, or done as quickly as possible between now and the next year's cycle to make sure that that project's done. So that's a request. I'm going to send it again in writing. If we have to get out and explain to the people in my district in that area why the project is on hold or didn't move or hasn't gone somewhere, and I think that we owe them an explanation as to why the project is not moving forward.
Well, yeah, Mr. Carroll, there's some confusion there. What you heard was the $700,000 is what's needed to improve the drainage. The streets are still going to be resurfaced. It's under contract now. It will be resurfaced in a couple of months, but the drainage will require additional $700,000.
We made a commitment to do both the drainage and the streets. I mean,
I understand. And,
So,
and when we did our investigation, did a little more thorough investigation, there's multiple utility conflicts that we weren't aware of, and it drove the cost up. We just don't have the current budget to handle the drainage, but we will. And we have a set of plans ready to go on that. We just need additional funding for that.
yeah, look, as a avid person on horizontal repairs and things like that, it doesn't feel good to put a Band-Aid on top of a broken leg, if you understand what I mean. I mean, why are we going to pave the streets and then we got to come back and cut them and jack them up and take all the piping out to fix the drainage? But I would just like you guys to reach out to the community, explain to them why we haven't moved forward, and to make sure that they know that we are going to move forward on correcting the drainage. That's a pretty bad spot there. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Mr. Reynolds?
No, I'm not.
All right. Anything else from this council?
Let's do our
Vice President?
rules waiving, y'all, on ordinance 34-047. And then consent, obviously, go to resolutions 01-1247, 49,
That one will be led separately, please.
47 separately. Okay, separately. But we'll still vote on it. 50, 52, 53. And I think that's it.
Anything else from this council? Anything from the administration? And we'd like to welcome you to your.
Yeah.
I'd
we
just
could've
like
made
to,
it worse.
I'd just like to say to the mayor-elect that we don't usually take this long. Usually we move along fairly quickly.
I'd like to say though, without Councilman Daves here, that may not always be true.
I'm not.
Yeah, we'd like to welcome the mayor-elect to his first council meeting as mayor-elect, pre-council meeting. And remember, council, we do have to recess at 12 noon to canvass the vote, okay? Yeah, all right. All right, we see each other 10:30 downstairs.